Alright, you and I are about to watch a royal bastard flip his entire life around. Since childhood, Johan took brutal beatings from his brothers just for being weak. That taught him one thing: trust nobody but yourself. After waking up reincarnated as a literal trash-tier prince, he made a wild choice. He became a full-blown bodybuilder, running for miles. Chugging insane amounts of protein and grinding martial arts every single day. Years of brutal training later, total absolute monster. He could literally punch straight through solid trees and level entire forests. His raw crushing strength just kept endlessly stacking up without limits. Look, this world is completely ruthless, a place where the strong literally drink the blood of the weak. Deep in a dark forest, a weird creature stops just to graze on some leaves. Hidden right there in the brush, a hunter is locked onto his prey. Stay perfectly calm, remember the training, don't blow this. He pulls the bowstring super tight, ready to fire. But snap, the sudden crack scares the animal away and his buddy yells out for Lord Johan. The guy totally freaks out, demanding why Johan shattered the bow instead of bagging the kill. Johan calmly says it was too flimsy. Bro, he just bought it last week. He complains, why does a fancy noble want to play hunter anyway? Go learn some basic swordsmanship instead. But the young noble stays totally silent. Johan finally drops the cold facts: swords don't pay the bills until you get hired. Let's keep moving. He needs cold cash to survive here. Right, his name is Johan Ates, formerly Kim Johan. A crazy accident sent him straight into this medieval world. Reborn a noble, sure, but absolute dead last in the hierarchy. He has zero chance of inheriting a single thing. Suddenly, his partner throws an arm out to stop him. Wolf pack ahead. The guy shoots a warning arrow nearby. The pack gets spooked and scatters away. Johan watches without saying a word. This medieval ice guy is brutally realistic. They stumble right onto a body pile. Our guy mutters that even death doesn't bring any peace here. His buddy starts sweating, wondering if these are their own villagers. Johan says who knows, but the lesson is super clear: the weak get eaten. And to avoid becoming dog food in this era, he needs serious money. When he first spawned in, he really hoped for some overpowered magic skill. Nope, doesn't exist here, so he pivoted hard. The new goal: pure wealth. With fat stacks of cash, he can escape this dump, become a big merchant or a free farmer. While he's daydreaming, his buddy frantically waves him over to see something. He points out that medicinal plant from earlier, Little Demon's Grass. Super rare, and insanely good for stopping bleeding. Johan snatches that thing up instantly. Cha-ching, that means big money, he pockets it. Then, suddenly, he spots an herb pouch lying right on the dirt. He tells his buddy he dropped it, but the guy denies it. Johan thinks that's literally impossible, since nobody else ever comes this deep into the forest. Now pay attention, this is where things get crazy. A sudden sound echoes through the woods, startling both of them. Someone is running desperately, screaming for help. The wild barking gets closer and closer, putting them on high alert. Then, they spot a kid cornered up a tree by wolves. Joseph recognizes her as Robert's daughter, Dell. What is a kid doing out here? The fierce wolf pack creeps closer. Joseph panics, warning there are way too many wolves to fight. He yells to fall back and grab help. But Johan, he just walks straight toward them. Joseph screams that these aren't ordinary wolves. The young noble casually says he'll draw their aggro so Joseph can save Dell. Joseph is totally stunned into silence. He can't believe a noble is playing bait for a commoner. But honestly, Johan just realized this spot is a literal gold mine. Should have learned hunting way sooner. He counts at least 10 wolves standing there. He does the math, selling all those pelts equals an absolute fortune. So he yells for his precious little money sources to wait right there. The older hunter is completely lost. Johan pulls out his sword. Joseph just stares, questioning what kind of sloppy swordsmanship form that is. The beasts all charge at him. He dodges lightning fast. One massive wolf leaps right at his face, clamping its jaws hard down on his blade. The sword completely shatters under the wolf's bite. The beast flinches back from the shock, catching Johan off guard. Then, another wolf flanks him. I know what you're thinking, he's totally surrounded and done for right. Joseph thinks so too, screaming Sir Johan's name in pure panic. Meanwhile, back in Baltrode village, the stuck-up Ates family is doing a territory inspection. Villagers bow down hard as the whole fancy entourage passes by. Madame Ates, the annoying concubine, whines about the horrible smell. Philip the first son says absolutely nothing. Then there's Jezin Ates, the awful territory lord. He also complains that the whole countryside stinks. Philip casually mentions that Johan is still missing, suggesting they maybe send some soldiers out to look. Jason snaps instantly just hearing that name. He barks to forget the trash boy, saying he doesn't care if Johan dies like his mother. Then he just laughs mockingly. He suddenly stops laughing when something catches his eye. Jason demands to know what's under that massive hay bale. A terrified villager admits it's hiding Johan's training spot. The Lord scoffs hard. He keeps insulting him, asking how a pathetic little insect could even train, but his smug face drops completely when they move the hay. Jason stares at a massive, perfectly caved-in fist mark, embedded deep into a solid trunk. Then he realizes every single surrounding tree is completely destroyed the exact same way. Cut back to the forest, Johan is pinned down by the pack. One wolf hesitates. Realizing his sword skills are actual garbage, he literally tosses the wolf aside. Then he hypes up his lovely little money sources, daring them to attack. Now, he's doing this his way. To avoid being just another meal in this brutal survival of the fittest era, he needs cash, and that means destroying this entire advancing pack. He needs overwhelming, godlike strength that shatters basic human limits, and with an absolute hurricane of bare fist punches, he wrecks the pack. Joseph watches, completely frozen. Every single heavy blow lands perfectly. Johan casually swats wolves away like flies, then grabs another right by the neck and ends it with one strike. The beast drops totally lifeless to the dirt. His buddy's jaw is practically on the floor. So what do you and I take from this? Standing over the fallen wolves, Johan wonders how much they're worth, accepting a hard truth. Life in this brutal world isn't easy. Alright, you and I are diving into a wild one today. Our boy is treated like total trash by his elite brothers, constantly catching beatdowns without fighting back. He quickly figured out this fantasy world was absolutely brutal. Nobody cared if he survived. Basically, it was a solo leveling situation from day one. So, how do you survive a cutthroat medieval society? Well, luckily, he had a massive cheat code locked in his brain, his past life as a totally normal modern student. Because of that, Johan packed brainpower these medieval guys couldn't comprehend. He kicked things off with modern sports science and hardcore high-intensity interval training. He even hacked together a totally balanced diet, using literal garbage that everyone else threw away. Using pure modern science, our guy built an insane workout routine and drilled close-quarters combat daily. He grinded for years, and the gains were crazy real. Throwing one punch, he literally snapped a massive tree clean in half. With every single workout, his strength leveled up to absolute beast mode. He felt amazing. Was this insane power a blessing or a curse? Whatever. The messy forest brawl finally ended, and Johan casually dusted off his hands. He checked the wiped-out wolf pack. Yep, that was the last of them. Joseph hugged little Dell in relief. Then the old hunter sighed, totally scolding Johan. He yelled at him for acting insanely reckless. But honestly, he admitted Johan's hero move was pretty inspiring. Stepping up to save the kid, total respect. Johan meanwhile just mentally calculated those sweet pelt profits. Hearing mumbling, he asked what Joseph just said. The old guy just brushed it off. Now here is where you and I need to watch closely. He checks Dell, but her face drops. Right behind them, a massive beast emerges. They whipped around, the kid hiding her face. The boss-level threat locked eyes with Johan, unleashing a bone-chilling growl. Joseph screamed in panic. He begged Johan to run, yelling that a giant beast like that literally required a whole army. Johan, completely unbothered, just asked if it was the boss. He casually apologized for wiping its squad, admitting the pelts were just too profitable. The beast kept snarling, clearly seeing our boy as a snack. It lunged with jaws wide open, but Johan smirked, he literally didn't care. Gripping a rock, he decided its hide was huge money. Bam! He smashed its skull, making the monster stagger backward from the impact. Johan actually complained about scratching the merchandise, annoyed his payday just dropped. Absolutely furious, the monster unleashed a deafening roar, shaking the entire forest. That roar hit hard. Everyone instinctively slammed hands over their ears, and even Johan cringed at the piercing shockwave. What the heck was that attack? His energy instantly hit zero. Out of nowhere, pure chaos erupted in the clearing as Johan collapsed, completely dazed. Shaking it off, he sat up, totally confused. He scanned the area for the boss monster. Wait a second. The beast had completely vanished. He spotted Joseph and Dell passed out nearby. Thankfully, they were unharmed. Hoisting Joseph up, he muttered they had to bounce before more enemies spawned in. They belayed from the battleground. But man, walking away, he was super salty about leaving all those highly expensive pelts behind. Trudging through the creepy forest, he finally spotted the village, and it was totally lit up. Were they searching for Dell to win over her dad? For a split second, he imagined getting named the family heir for this. Then reality hit. Hoping they'd just make him a guard so he'd get free meals, but right then he froze. Something was completely off. Torches flared up ahead. His dad's entire inspection squad was blocking the road. Johan was completely clueless about the drama. Philip screams Johan's name, absolutely losing his mind over him skipping the big inspection. Oh snap! Johan suddenly realized he completely forgot about it. His dad, Jason, rides up, tossing harsh insults. He jumps off his horse, landing heavy and furious. Still carrying Dell, Johan tries explaining everything, but his dad aggressively tells him to shut up, raising his massive axe. You and I might panic here, right? Not Johan. Facing a literal death threat, he calmly looks up, boldly claiming he didn't skip it on purpose. He was saving lives. Suddenly, a guy breaks from the crowd, recognizing little Dell and immediately hugging her. Crying tears of joy, he holds her tight, incredibly thankful his missing daughter is finally safe and sound. Johan flexes the truth, explaining how he soloed a wolf pack for her. Before the crowd, he boldly claims that missing the inspection was totally justified. Since he did his noble duty, he bows politely, promising to keep playing hero for the local estate's safety. He smoothly asks his dad for the guard captain job. He smiles, absolutely certain his pitch was a perfect 10. Jason isn't buying it, demanding hard proof of these dead wolves. Johan fiercely defends his story. He casually mentions fighting the great black wolf. The crowd watches. Jason's jaw drops. Furious, he calls Johan a liar and violently threatens him. Johan challenges him to a duel to prove his stats. He turns, knowing there's zero backing out now. Jason grins, accepting the challenge to test the kid's worth. He orders Johan to draw his sword for a strict weapons-only fight. Johan blanks, a weapon fight. It suddenly hits him his dad literally never taught him swordplay. The two step up, facing off in the dirt arena. Draw, Johan awkwardly reveals a broken hilt. Annoyed, Jason tells Philip to toss the kid a real blade. Philip steps up, whispering he should just beg for his life. So what do you and I learn here? Our boy refuses. Real men never back down. Alright, stick with me, you and I are about to watch the craziest family showdown. Johan shoves his brother, grabs a fresh sword, and stares down his dad, Jason, ready for combat. He charges in like an absolute beast. Jason's eyes go wide as Johan swings with insane power, clashing his sword right into the heavy axe. Boom, the sword totally shatters. A sharp piece flies right into Johan's forehead. Jason stumbles backward, but keeps a tight grip on his huge weapon. Teeth completely gritted, Jason glares at his own son. He pushes forward with the axe, yelling that Johan is just a parasite. Johan barely dodges backward. Philip screams that Johan disrespected the boss. A random villager realizes Jason actually wants him dead. Jason attacks again, shouting Johan is too useless to learn sword fighting. He keeps swinging, screaming Johan will never beat him. Jason roars that the land is his, not even the emperor can touch it. Johan just stares right back. Bright red blood from his busted forehead drips straight into his intense eyes. Philip screams his name. Jason violently swings the heavy axe handle right at Johan's face, while the entire shocked crowd just watches. Johan manages to block using his hilt, but it totally cracks under the insane pressure. It shatters everywhere. He stares at his dad and finally gives up. Defeated, Johan drops to his knees among the broken blade pieces. Jason walks up, coldly telling him to know his place. He drops a brutal threat. If he ever sees him again, he'll actually crush his skull. Jason just turns around and walks away, leaving Johan all alone. The villagers totally swarm him. We cut far away to a church, where some guy loudly calls Jason's actions completely unfair. Inside, Johan actually shushes the loud dude. But the priest yells he doesn't care. He's literally from the Vatican. He keeps ranting, completely mind-blown that Jason would treat his own kid like garbage. Rocking a head bandage, Johan insists he's totally fine and alive. The priest argues it was a complete joke. Johan just awkwardly looks away. Leaning on a table, he gets real for a second. Even without sword training, He had no clue he was this crazy weak. The priest tries cheering him up, saying of course he lost. Jason is a total war veteran using secret family moves. He brings up a wild rumor that Sir Eitz soloed 300 guys on another estate. Johan is super impressed, admitting good technique is basically everything. He casually adds he thought he could win, especially after facing down a massive black wolf. The priest suddenly whips his head around. He grabs Johan's shoulders, freaking out. Did he seriously see a black wolf? Johan nods, saying his buddies Joseph and Del saw it too. The priest goes into full panic mode. Johan is super confused. What's the big deal? The priest dramatically turns around, yanks an old book off the shelf, and slams it open right in front of him. The priest explains black wolves are totally taboo, a literal death omen. Old legends say they cause pure chaos and bloodshed. Johan scoffs, saying he doesn't buy that stuff, but guesses the wolf might have jinxed his fight anyway. The priest quickly calms down, telling him to chill. They're just old, spooky bedtime stories. He even says God is probably helping Johan because he's a solid dude. The priest calls him totally selfless, which actually makes Johan smile, even though he seriously doubts it. Now pay attention, because things are about to get really dark. We cut over to the Brits' barony at night. Absolute nightmare fuel, terrified screams and begging echo everywhere. A totally desperate woman holding her kid begs to survive. But nope, it's their final moments. A huge trail of blood just spreads right across the pitch-black dirt. A lifeless hand completely drops into the mud. One soldier wonders why people even bother running. His buddy replies they're dead anyway, casually brushing off the insane cruelty. Another guy questions why they have to slaughter and burn everybody, but then literally shrugs it off. Hey, they're just mercenaries getting paid in shiny gold. Two shadowy figures link up near a massive burning gate. Some dude kneels for Sir Karamov, confirming the hired killers are done. He hands her the actual family ring. Karamov just coldly repeats the family name. She expected way more from the Brits, but the guy totally folded in under 2 attacks. She hypes herself up as the sword of the Holy Empire and the Empress's right hand, rocking the official title of Seal Collector. She vows to utterly crush all the shady nobles for the Emperor. And hey, if you ride with her crew, you get showered with pure gold and insane glory. Karamov points her sword, yelling to burn and loot everything. Next up, the Eitz estate. You and I both know that means absolute war. Suddenly, 2 warriors violently clash swords. Blades spark insanely close to a helmet. A knight in full plate armor blocks a heavy swing, while his hooded enemy flawlessly parries right back. Their weapons brutally lock together. A crazy fast move rips the helmet off the hooded fighter. Bright red blood instantly sprays into the pitch-black night. The empty metal helmet rolls across the floor, showing a totally wrecked face. Bam, his eyes snap wide open. Johan jolts awake, gasping for air in his completely empty bedroom. Grabbing his face, he questions if it was all fake. Then it clicks. He's been having this exact same nightmare on repeat since he saw that creepy black wolf. He remembers the crazy warning. The wolf is a legendary sign of epic bad luck. Just seeing the thing basically guarantees massive bloodshed and pure death. He remembers the priests calling it a literal death flag, but Johan totally shakes it off. It's gotta be just a dumb myth, right? Besides, he didn't even heard it. Wait, then the memory hits him. Oh right, he definitely chucked a pretty huge rock at its head. Brushing off that awkward realization, he decides to just go work out. As the sun sets, Johan is sweating it out on a hill. Someone suddenly calls him trash. He spins around. 2 massive jerks walk up, reminding him his dad said to stay hidden. They totally poke the bear, sneering and asking if chopping firewood actually makes him stronger. The brutal trash talk keeps coming. Smashing wood is just a cheap party trick for losers, they laugh. One guy straight up clowns his dream of joining the guard, saying his dad would never hire pure garbage. The bully adds his dad only kept him around to smash his skull and feed him to the pigs. Boom! With one single insane punch, Johan completely atomizes the huge log. The 2 bullies freeze, eyes popping, jaws on the floor. Johan glances at the exploded wood, then slowly glares right back at them. He dares them to say it again. They panic and run off crying to his dad. Trust me, you and I are gonna love what happens next. Stick with me here, you and I are jumping into an epic underdog story. He watches them leave, calling them total idiots, then goes straight back to his hardcore training grind. Another voice chimes in, confirming it is all true. Philip walks up and drops a massive truth bomb. Their father will absolutely never give Johan any official position. Johan just shrugs, saying he totally saw that coming. Honestly, not being dead is a win. Philip asks if he is feeling super disappointed about it. Johan brushes it off, saying he will just hustle another way to survive. But then Philip reveals the insane truth. Their father is actually terrified of him. Johan stops mid-punch. He turns to face his brother, completely stunned. Philip explains that Johan's insane, off-the-chart strength is a massive threat. Their dad only wants obedient little puppets like Philip. Since Johan actually has principles, his dad is convinced that Johan's raw power will totally steal everything he owns one day. Just like how he ruthlessly backstabbed their grandpa back in the day, Johan smiles, calling the whole thing absolutely ridiculous. Philip then snaps his fingers, ordering a servant to bring over a massive cloth sack. Johan stares hard at the stuff, asking what the deal is. Inside, a badass surcoat, an epic long sword, and some heavy-duty armor. Philip flexes, saying he is not foolish like their dad. He would never throw away a powerhouse. Johan just watches him. Philip promises to make Johan captain of the guard once he takes over as lord. He tells him to keep grinding and stop causing absolute chaos. Johan yells back that he literally never starts the drama. Philip and his servant head out, leaving our guy completely alone on the windy hill. Now watch closely, because this is where it gets crazy. He stares at the armor and realizes it perfectly matches his nightmare. Does wearing it mean he is totally doomed to die? But honestly, he feels like he can totally smash that dark destiny, even without proof. Regardless, Johan knows he desperately needs decent gear to survive this mess. He throws on the armor and cloak, getting perfectly geared up. As the sun sets, a laugh echoes out. Cut to a loud tavern, where some guy is swearing he is telling facts. But his buddy calls total cap. The first dude hypes up how Sir Johan utterly shredded those wolves, drawing his blade just to save Dell and Joseph like a legendary knight. They totally agree, Johan is way better than trash Lord Jason, while a mysterious hooded guy eavesdrops. Another villager jokes that Johan should have just sliced Jason's head clean off. Joseph bursts into the bar, shouting that drinks are on him tonight. The hooded figure casually asks why. Joseph raises his mug high, toasting Sir Johan for saving his precious daughter, Dell. One villager glares at the stranger, asking who the heck he is, since he is clearly not from around here. The hooded guy casually points out that they were just trash-talking the local lord in front of a total random. The villager just stares, frozen. The stranger smirks, saying these locals really do not fear death at all. He then admits their story was super interesting and aggressively demands all the details, terrifying the whole room. He makes it clear, he wants every detail about Johan Eights. Meanwhile, far away, Johan is just strolling through the dark village. He is totally daydreaming about Philip's promise to make him captain, thinking his epic golden era has finally begun. Suddenly, Johan stops dead in his tracks and glances over. He spots a wasted dude slumped on the ground. Acting like the future captain of the guard, he decides he absolutely cannot ignore a citizen, so he walks over. I know what you are thinking, total nice guy move, right? He offers the dude a walk home, but suddenly, bam, an ice-cold dagger gets pressed directly against his throat. He glances up, panicking, trying to process this madness. Did Jason send an assassin? Nah, no way. Then his brain scrambles, was it the mistress or maybe even Philip? He genuinely has zero clue who sent this guy. Johan asks what the attacker wants, figuring it is a robbery. He frantically offers all his cash just to survive. But the hooded guy laughs, claiming he is already ridiculously rich. He calls Johan by his full name, stating he is only going to ask one simple question. He drops a heavy threat: if the answer sucks, his throat gets completely sliced open right here. Johan is mind-blown, realizing one wrong word literally equals an instant game over. He locks in, absolutely determined to drop the perfect answer and live. The dude announces the test is starting. Johan braces for impact. The mysterious guy checks out Johan's crazy build and questions if he is actually Jason's real kid. Johan is totally thrown off. With his life literally on the line, he grits his teeth, sweating bullets. Finally, Johan spits absolute fire, saying sometimes a fierce lion can actually be born from a pig's bloodline. The hooded figure stays completely silent. Johan panics, thinking he just gave the worst answer ever. The hood twitches. Then, the guy suddenly bursts into insane laughter. He loves the answer but still refuses to let Johan go. The shadowy figure declares that Johan 8 is officially his property now. Johan is completely confused, because this guy, he is Kegel, the Empire's legendary assassin and poison master of the Knossos Guild. He perfectly mastered his deadly swordsmanship through endless kills, earning the terrifying title of the Poison Serpent. But Kegel had one massive problem. He desperately needed an heir for his broken technique, but everyone he found was totally pathetic. A few rookies had decent potential but completely failed. One guy even refused the assassin training entirely, choosing death over ruining his precious honor. Kegel happily granted that wish. Over 30 knightly heirs got wiped out by him. Losing his patience, he finally visited the Empire's legendary witch. A creepy voice calls him the Poison Serpent, the dude who hands out peaceful deaths. The witch drops a massive spoiler: his perfect disciple is actually one of the Eight's Lord's sons. Kegel is super skeptical. Could his legendary successor really be hiding in this dumpster fire town? The witch confidently offers a full refund if her prophecy completely bombs. He takes the deal, choosing to trust her magic. Kegel desperately wanted this to work. He had wasted way too many years and his clock was ticking fast. Still, heavy doubts haunted him walking into the Eight's estate. Staring at the castle, he fully decided to just murder the kid if he was garbage. Back in the present, Kegel formally introduces himself as the Knossos Guild boss, declaring Johan is his new heir. He drops a brutal ultimatum: get sliced by his sword or master his technique. Those are the only two options. Johan is completely mind-blown by this wild offer. Then, he suddenly yells, asking how much cash this legendary training will cost him. Kegel smirks, saying he does not want a single penny. Johan is totally shell-shocked. A ridiculously overpowered guildmaster wants to train him for absolutely nothing. And that is where we leave it. Johan grabs him, hyped beyond belief. But Kegel drops the ultimate reality check: this is an assassin's path. Alright, stick with me here, you and I are about to watch this kid throw his pride away. Kegel warns the technique ruins knightly reputations, but Johan literally screams he doesn't care and begs to learn. Kegel actually agrees, chuckling that he's never seen a crazy brat like this before. Johan instantly calls him master, then straight up asks for an allowance since Kegel bragged about being loaded. Kegel just stares at him, realizing this kid is pure chaos. Cut back to House 8's. Lord Jaisen 8 sits on his horse, declaring the inspection is finally over and he's heading out for a bit. Philip says goodbye, promising to hold the fort down. But Madame 8 immediately snaps, swearing that no matter what, this entire castle belongs to her. Philip calls her completely delusional, insisting he's going to be the next lord. Jaisen just turns away. He is absolutely sick of their endless bickering and tells them to do whatever they want. Inside, Philip tells his dad that Johan is still missing and asks what the plan is. Jaisen shoots him a cold look, ordering him to stop wasting breath on that worthless brat. Whether he lives or dies means absolutely nothing to them. Philip apologizes, then turns around, secretly wondering where the heck Johan ran off to. Meanwhile, out in the forest, Kegel says it's time to test his new student's actual skills. Johan asks for a weapon, admitting he breaks them way too fast. Watching him, Kegel thinks this kid is totally reckless and honestly hates his whole vibe. He pulls his own blade, seriously considering ending him right here. Johan grips his sword and just says yes. Master and apprentice square off in the woods. Kegel roasts Johan's terrible stance, deciding this kid definitely has to die. Johan casually asks if he actually needs to use proper sword forms or if he can just go wild. Kegel tells him to do whatever: fists, throwing rocks, or swinging blades. It honestly doesn't matter. Johan tightens his grip and explodes with absolutely overwhelming power, shattering fragments into the air as Kegel watches. Watch closely, because you and I are seeing the exact second Kegel's eyes pop wide. All doubts vanish. This boy is just an absolute, undeniable monster. Johan charges in with a massive punch that creates an insane shockwave, totally catching Kegel off guard. If that hit connects, his lungs and muscles are instantly crushed. It genuinely feels like fighting a wild, raging lion instead of a human kid. Quick cut, and now we see an intense, fast-paced clash where Kegel's movements are totally unpredictable. Johan tries reading the attacks, totally guessing if the next strike goes high or low, and boom, his master's blade smacks him dead in the face. The massive impact sends him crashing down hard. His master casually steps back, just watching him in the dirt. He points out that he hit him with the flat side, yet Johan didn't even black out. He literally calls the kid ridiculous, claiming that 1,000 years ago, someone with this much raw talent would be considered a legendary hero. Johan takes the compliment, but Kegel shuts him down, pointing out a massive, fatal flaw. At this rate, he's guaranteed to die. Still laying there, Johan asks what the heck he means. His master brutally explains that Johan's total lack of control over his own massive strength is exactly what's going to kill him. Johan snaps back that it's not like he's actually hitting himself. Getting into a new stance, Kegel challenges him to strike again if he's so cocky. He makes a bet if Johan manages to break his master's sword instead of his own, he gets paid in pure gold. The kid screams and charges in. He swings with absolutely everything he has. The blades crash together with a massive shockwave, but Johan's weapon violently shatters, and the insane recoil launches him backwards. Johan suddenly realizes this feels exactly like that brutal fight with his father. His master asks if it clicks now, bluntly stating he just lost to his own power. He warns him again, master that wild power, or it's game over. Johan pulls a broken steel shard from his clothes, asking if Kegel deflected it there on purpose, and admits he finally gets it. He swears he will learn control and survive, because he is destined to be the next captain of the House 8's guard. Kegel explains that if you can perfectly contain your energy, crazy stuff like this happens. Then he casually swings his empty scabbard to prove his point. I know what you're thinking, slicing armor with a sheath. Absolutely wild. Johan is completely stunned, but his master asks if he saw that, explaining that with real control. You can literally slice through anything, even without an actual blade. He admits he can't even fathom how insanely overpowered Johan will be once he masters this. Johan soaks in every single word. Kegel announces the real hell training starts now, warning it'll be brutal enough to kill him. Grinning like a maniac, Johan screams yes. The scene jumps over to a bustling village with a huge castle towering in the background. Johan is walking the streets, rocking a face completely covered in bruises. He thinks to himself that he's finally mastering restraint, but wonders when he actually gets to learn real swordsmanship. Suddenly, a strange noise grabs his attention, and he turns around. He spots a totally stacked group of soldiers and wonders if they're actual elves. He walks right up asking who they are, but one barks at him to scram immediately. Johan literally points right at the elf, demanding to know who gave him authority. The soldier snaps back, asking who Johan thinks he is. He introduces himself as a member of the Wolves of Akatin, the Empire's elite mercenary squad. Hearing the word mercenary, Johan lights up and immediately asks about the pay. Two of them brag about pulling in 2 gold coins per job, which totally blows a guard captain's salary out of the water. One elf mentions pure skill is everything here. Johan hasn't ever seen a gold coin, so he seriously considers switching careers. But mid-chat, a massive, terrifying figure steps up right behind him. An absolute beast of a warrior in heavy armor stops dead in his tracks. Johan feels this suffocating, heavy aura and instinctively grabs his hilt, ready to draw. But then he freezes, dripping in sweat, totally confused as to why his body just reacted like that. An elf points a blade at Johan, screaming about disrespecting Sir Karamov. With just a wave, the massive knight tells them to drop it. Sitting up on his horse, he coldly asks for Johan's name. Johan goes dead silent for a second. Totally surrounded by drawn swords, he introduces himself as Johan of House 8's. The massive warrior slowly reaches up for his helmet. Taking it off, he reveals he is Karamov, an elite Imperial Guard knight from the Holy Empire. Johan suddenly realizes why his hand jumped right to his sword. He has never felt fear like this in his life, not fighting wild beasts, not even when his own dad tried to end him. The pure bloodlust is absolutely suffocating. Trust me, you and I would freeze too. It's like being helpless prey facing a relentless predator. Karamov casually orders him aside, but Johan remains completely paralyzed under the pressure. Let's dive into an epic underdog story, guys. He finally ducks out of the way, while the elves mock how terrified Johan looks. Leaving, one warns him to watch his back next time if he survives. A knight in training, Jane, asks Sir Karamov if they're seriously just leaving him behind. Karamov brushes it off, saying he really doesn't want to start any drama today. He adds, not yet anyway. Johan watches the squad walk through the gate. Left completely alone, he wonders what an emperor's knight is doing here. Nearby, a man starts sprinting after hearing Karamov arrived. Philip Yates is practically flying down the hallways. Why would a massive VIP show up now? Panting hard, he introduces himself as the future Lord Yates and asks the reason for this sudden visit. Madame Yates cuts him off. She hypes up Karamov and introduces her son John as the real future lord. She even jokes that she would have waited to get married if she knew he existed. She invites him inside, but Karamov completely ignores her and just keeps on walking. The madam yells after him, getting zero response. Tossing his helm aside and claiming a throne, Karamov demands to know where Jessen is. The Yates family stares in shock, and Philip immediately scolds him. It is totally disrespectful to talk about Lord Jessen like that. But Madame Yates argues the Empire's strongest knight can do whatever he wants, insisting she will handle his welcome personally. Philip furiously clenches his fists. She is totally using this chance to push her son as the heir. Suddenly, Karamov grabs his sword hilt and screams at everyone to shut up. He kicks everyone out and demands booze. Weapon in hand, he boldly declares he is waiting right there until Jessen finally shows up. That night, Johan trains hard, blocking his master's strikes, but his mind wanders to Karamov. Kegel scolds him instantly, throwing daggers and yelling at him to focus up. The kid deflects the attacks with his sword, but one blade barely grazes his neck. His master barks that he would be dead if those were poisoned. Why is he spacing out? Pay close attention here, guys. Johan explains the Emperor's knights showed up. Something feels way off, especially since this is Yates' family turf. They have no right to lock the gates and control everything. Kegel asks what Johan can even do about it, suspicious or not. Then Johan describes Karamov to him. The Emperor's personal knight, basically the strongest dude on the continent rocking legendary armor. Johan flat out asks if Karamov is stronger than him. His master goes totally quiet for a second. Then he drops the truth: if he fought Karamov, he would run away immediately. Suddenly, Kegel cuts himself off and tells Johan to shut up. Kegel calls him a total idiot who needs to know his place. The kid cannot even control his own power yet. Johan just takes a deep breath and closes his eyes. Then he grips his sword and boldly declares he will do it. His master sighs heavily and challenges him. They rush each other insanely fast. Johan takes a brutal hit from the scabbard but screams to keep going. He gets smacked down again but demands another round. Even taking hit after hit, he refuses to quit. Kegel hypes him up, shouting for him to attack again. The kid is so frustrated. Why can he not slice through a basic wooden scabbard? Suddenly, the lesson about controlling the flow of his energy clicks in his brain. Stop just wildly swinging. He needs to focus all that raw power right at the blade's edge. Mid-swing, Johan finally starts grasping how to truly control his crazy strength. Kegel immediately hears the heavy swoosh of the blade, getting dangerously sharp. Johan clashes his sword violently against his master's scabbard in one epic strike. A massive light bulb goes off. If he blends all his training with the perfect amount of energy, he wins. Kegel's instincts scream that this next attack is going to be lethal. He lunges with a ridiculously fast and precise motion. His blade rips through the air, completely slicing the tip right off Kegel's scabbard. Johan jumps around, celebrating like crazy. You and I both know this is insane, right? Johan shouts that he nailed it and it wasn't even hard, while Kegel just stares, totally convinced it was pure luck. The master calls his name, getting an instant reply. Kegel slowly draws his actual sword, warning the kid that playtime is officially over. Johan charges in again, going absolutely all out. Boom, the crazy impact literally sends Kegel flying backward. Johan bounces around hyping up another win, while his master is left completely mind-blown by this kid's freakish potential. He is absolutely stunned. Johan just used the secret serpent's tongue technique without ever being taught it. He only learned basic force control, yet he perfectly copied the move. From seeing it just once on day one. And get this, he is pulling it off better than the master himself. Kegel stands there in absolute, stunned silence. The old assassin's instincts scream one terrifying truth. Without a literal miracle, Johan is already someone he absolutely cannot defeat. Kegel, the legendary boss of the Empire's deadliest assassin guild, Nasso's Poison, just mutters in disbelief. He calls Johan a total freak, while the kid happily celebrates his new skill. Later that night, Kegel drops a bomb, training is officially over, and he is out of here at dawn. Johan is super confused, but his master insists he's learned everything. He just flat out admits it. In under a week, Johan surpassed him. Kegel says he is totally happy his sword style will live on, telling the kid to live life his own way. He admits Johan 8's really grinded hard for this. Chilling by the campfire, Johan asks the real reason he is leaving so soon. The master shrugs it off as just his style. Then Johan brings up the black wolf, and Kegel confirms it is definitely bad news. Johan admits he actually spotted one recently. He even had a nightmare about getting his head chopped off, assuming Kegel was the bad omen. Kegel laughs, saying if he had murdered him, that definitely would be it. Bad luck takes many forms, he warns. Before heading out, he drops some final wisdom. First, Johan desperately needs a weapon that matches his insane strength. Only legendary Dana steel could handle his raw power without breaking. See, Dana steel is this epic, magic-infused metal. The recipe to make it, completely lost to time. It is only found in ancient ruins, making these weapons ridiculously rare and overpowered. Johan asks why even recommend it if he cannot afford one. Kegel smirks, replying it is just so he knows exactly what to look for. Kegel gets dead serious. If Johan ever spots someone rocking a Dana steel weapon, even from miles away, he needs to sprint in the opposite direction. If he ignores his limits, his life is basically over. Johan agrees to remember it all. The master stands up. Johan asks if he is really leaving already. Kegel's last rule: never fight an unbeatable enemy, but if you have to fight, use literally every dirty trick to win. He promises Johan will survive if he follows this, finishing with one simple request: just don't die. Johan watches his master vanish into the creepy dark forest. He locks those final words in his brain: run if you must, kill if needed, but always survive. Johan swears he will never forget that advice. Meanwhile, back at the fancy 8's castle, Madame 8 nervously asks Karamov if the alcohol is good. So what do we think happens next? He spits that it tastes like literal garbage, demanding she toss it. She instantly smashes the bottle with her fan. She notices he hates the pricey drink. Madame 8 leans in, whispering that the only better stuff is hidden away in Lord Jessen's room. Stick with me here. You and I are about to watch this whole situation go completely off the rails. She promises him a super cozy time in Jessen's room. She shoots her shot, offering some private fun. Karamov coldly tells her to get lost, but the madam pushes her luck, insisting Jessen is running way late. Karamov's face completely darkens. He growls that he's totally sick of this nonsense and decides to make his own fun. Cue a blood-curdling scream. Karamov literally chokes her out, hyping up his favorite hobby, a straight-up massacre. Meanwhile, poor Philip peeks through the door, absolutely traumatized. Cut to our boy Johan, stopping at a hilltop. He looks down, totally stunned. His village and the castle, all up in massive flames. He wonders what the heck is happening. Elsewhere, Lord Jessen spots the thick smoke billowing from his own turf. One of his loyal guys warns him the fire looks insanely huge. They need to head back right now. Jessen's horse sprints at max speed to the front gates. The guards actually mock him for lagging behind and rush him inside. They warn him that Karamov is definitely not a patient guy. Jessen walks in and freezes. The entire courtyard is basically a graveyard for his men and staff. Lifeless bodies are literally everywhere. Jessen slowly looks up, zeroing in on the menacing armored dude casually stepping out from the shadows. Karamov smirks, saying he is way too late. Jessen grips his heavy axe, absolutely furious. He pulls out his weapon, screaming at Karamov to explain what the heck he thinks he's doing. Karamov coldly accuses him of high treason and trying to off the emperor. He declares House 8 is getting totally wiped out today. Watch closely now. Jessen screams this is a total setup, a fake charge just to slaughter him. He charges at Karamov, refusing to go down without a fight. But Karamov just casually calls for the trumpet, ordering his men to steal the family seal and murder absolutely everyone. A soldier blows the horn, sealing the doom of the entire estate. The Imperial army charges forward, screaming battle cries as they tear through the burning, blazing village. One soldier walks up to a deeply injured villager. The bleeding man kneels, calling him a completely cruel bastard. The soldier mocks him, asking where the pig of a son is hiding. He swings to finish him off, but boom! Johan 8 swoops in out of nowhere, blocking the fatal strike. Our boy casually slices the soldier down. The villager watches the blood splatter everywhere, looking up in shock to realize Lord Johan just saved his life. Johan pulls the guy to his feet, demanding answers. The dude cries that the royal army is literally massacring everyone in sight. Father Valberg drops the heavy bomb. Lord Jessen might already be dead. Johan freezes hearing that. Valberg warns they are burning the whole town to dust just to erase them completely. Johan knows he has to rush back to the castle immediately. Suddenly, a familiar voice cries out. He turns and walks toward it, completely ignoring Valberg calling his name. Johan spots little Dell crying on the ground. He gently asks if she's okay, promising she's totally safe now as he calls her over. Suddenly, his survival instincts kick into high gear. Dell points behind him, stuttering that her dad got hurt. Johan whips around. The father who always smiled and protected her is lying completely lifeless on the dirt. Johan scans the area, seeing so many villager bodies. That sweet family who always greeted him, just totally dead. His drinking buddies, slaughtered too. He grinds his teeth in pure rage as Dell grabs his cape. Johan softly tells the kid to stick with Father Valberg so she stays alive. She nods quickly. Then Johan turns right back toward the roaring flames while Valberg frantically shouts after him. Holding Dell, Valberg screams that he has to run away and survive. Johan pauses in his tracks when he hears his name. You and I both knew this was coming, right? He looks up at a pole. It's his dad's head. A sign says Duke Jessen Eights was executed for treason against the crown. The sign warns anyone touching the body gets the exact same death penalty. Signed by Karamov. Then, a random guard actually recognizes Johan. The jerk asks if he's the bastard kid, laughing that he should have stayed in hiding. Ready to die, Johan just whips out his blade in a lightning-fast blur. With one strike, he chops the pole down, trampling it into the dirt. The guard screams at his squad to attack him immediately, but Johan just gives them a death stare. He dashes in, slicing these guys into pieces. The last dude drops hard. Now Johan stands completely alone in the ashes of his ruined home. Why is he even doing this? Why walk back into the meat grinder? He thinks of Valberg's warning, totally agreeing that running is the smart play. Facing Karamov now is basically pure suicide. But then, a weak voice calls his name. He finds Philip bleeding outright in the middle of a massive pile of dead knights. Philip gasps, shocked the kid is alive. He demands to know why Johan returned, begging him to escape before he gets himself killed too. Philip hands over his sick helmet, saying he meant to gift it when Johan became the boss. Johan grips the metal tight, grinding his teeth in pure anger. Flashback time. His old master always told him to read the room and know when he's outmatched. The rule was simple, run when things get too sketchy. Even knowing this guy is an elite royal knight, Johan locks in. He remembers the golden rule. If you fight, you aim to kill. He slams the helm on. It is go time. He stands tall and storms the castle gates. Johan squares up against a squad of imperial troops. The guards panic, wondering how this absolute unit slipped right past security. Johan clenches his fists, roaring Karamov's name. He marches right at them, screaming for the coward to show his face. His heavy boots echo loudly on the bloody stone. He stops, completely suited up in armor, blood literally dripping off his blade. Finally, Karamov steps out, totally amused that the fugitive son is still breathing. Karamov remembers him from earlier today outside the castle, but Johan cuts him off, snapping that he is definitely not here to play friendly introductions. Johan just tells the guy to see him as his worst nightmare. Karamov laughs, saying he should have kept running if he wanted to live, calling him totally suicidal. Karamov gladly accepts the challenge. Drawing his weapon, he dares Johan to step up and die. Johan coldly answers that talk is incredibly cheap right now. So what do you and I do now? We watch the fireworks. Johan charges, and their blades violently clash together right in the middle of the raging fire. Stick with me here, we are dropping into an absolutely insane fight. Johan tries a sideways strike, but Karamov muscles through, blocking the attack. Their swords grind together before Karamov violently disarms him. Johan's blade goes flying. He leaps backward to dodge, touching down and gearing up for round 2. Karamov just laughs, calling this fun. Johan's swords shatter into pieces. The broken blades literally float in the air around him. He stares at the fragments as Karamov charges forward, swinging his sword for a deadly strike. The blow drops in a massive arc, slicing a solid stone pillar clean in half. Karamov grins, finding this whole setup super interesting. He casually drops that Johan is way stronger than Brits ever was. Suddenly, Karamov grabs one of his own soldiers. He straight up rips the guy's head off and tosses it, screaming that this is finally real fun. He demands Idas's bastard son keep entertaining him. Johan snaps back to reality, perfectly blocking the next incoming attack. The block actually cracks Karamov's armor, giving our boy the absolute perfect opening to counterattack. His blade slashes right into Karamov's arm. The massive guy stumbles back a few steps, creating distance as the two lock eyes. Karamov stares at his wounded arm, totally baffled about how Johan just sliced through his Danist steel armor. He checks the deep gouge on his gauntlet, while Johan grips his sword hilt even tighter. Karamov thinks it is literally impossible for any normal human to damage Danist steel. He demands to know who Johan really is. Then the kid raises his sword, and their blades violently clash again. Karamov is genuinely shocked by the kid's raw strength, but Johan does not let up, launching a brutal downward strike that Karamov blocks with his sword. Johan pushes hard with another heavy blow. Karamov writes him off as just a mindless brute swinging a sword with zero technique, and prepares to launch a nasty counterattack. He knocks Johan's blade aside, advancing fast with a vicious thrust. Johan sharply dodges, realizing he cannot even defend against such a wildly basic attack. Karamov realizes this kid is running purely on wild instinct, no real technique, wondering if Jezin even taught him anything. Still, he recognizes Johan is crazy dangerous, deciding he needs to finish this fight immediately. Karamov gets ready for Johan's next wild swing, and easily parries it. But Johan's blade bites deep against his own steel. Using both hands, Johan shoves the sword forward, though Karamov barely manages to deflect the heavy strike. Now watch closely, this is where it gets crazy. Johan challenges him, promising Karamov's head will roll. Karamov notices something super weird as Johan literally catches his blade bare-handed. A wild serpent shape suddenly manifests right out of Johan's arm. He blasts Karamov straight in the face with a brutal punch, throwing the massive guy backward and completely shattering a chunk of his armor. Karamov coughs up blood. His sword clatters loudly onto the stone floor. He backs up, clutching his bleeding mouth, finally recognizing this insane move as Kegel's legendary assassination swordsmanship. He realizes Johan Idas was hiding his real power this entire time. His eyes go wide, violently cursing himself for dropping his guard. Karamov doubles over, spilling way more blood from his mouth until a puddle literally forms on the floor. He stands back up, locking eyes with Johan, who is watching his every move. Johan takes off his helm, asking why he did all this horrific stuff. Karamov coldly answers that absolutely everything was for his imperial majesty. He claims the empire is totally unstable, so the emperor drew the imperial sword, known as Mavkara, to fix things. Karamov violently coughs, leaning heavily on his own sword while Johan just stands there staring. Suddenly, Karamov bursts out laughing, declaring he is actually moved by Johan Idas. He brags that for literal decades he fought countless elite knights, but never once found anyone with strength like this. Karamov invites the kid to join him in the empire, claiming his majesty desperately needs crazy talent like his. He promises infinite gold, massive glory, and endless fertile lands. The emperor himself would crown him an imperial knight. He hypes Johan up to become the emperor's ultimate sword. Johan stays totally silent at this crazy offer of infinite gold. He turns his head away, looking up, and admits that used to be his dream life, but right now, he feels absolutely nothing. He shoots the offer down flat. Karamov is completely stunned, asking what he just said. Johan snaps back, confronting the man for slaughtering his family and completely innocent servants. Karamov repeats the word servants, asking if he is seriously rejecting this epic offer over some nobodies. He angrily grinds his teeth. I know what you are thinking, classic villain speech, right? Karamov yells that servants are just insects, declaring the strong drink the blood of the weak because that is the law. Johan takes that twisted logic in total silence. He clenches his fist, whispering an apology to his master because he cannot hold back anymore. He steps up and absolutely decks Karamov. The brutal punch rocks Karamov's head back. Johan keeps his fist tight, striking again while screaming mockingly about all this being for the emperor. That second hit smashes right into the side of Karamov's skull. Johan keeps swinging, screaming about those worthless lives. Karamov's panicked eye reflects the next incoming blow. Johan roars, asking what makes this guy think he is so godlike. He demands to know who gave him the right to judge who lives and who dies, before landing one last devastating punch straight to Karamov's face. Karamov's eye goes incredibly wide from the massive impact, as blood violently spurts everywhere. Karamov's hand weakly twitches on the stone floor. Johan lowers his blood-soaked fist, standing over the broken body. As Johan turns to leave, Karamov bitterly calls him an absolute fool. He gasps that the kid should have taken the deal. Now, it is way too late. Anyone who breaks the Emperor's sword is going to know nothing but pure suffering from here on out. Johan just watches coldly as Karamov's finger goes completely limp, and his entire body literally dissolves. Johan reflects how, to survive this messed-up world, all he ever cared about was making money. But now, he clenches his fist hard. His entire territory was butchered, his family and neighbors completely wiped out and burned to ash. Even if the whole world turns against him, he walks past the corpses knowing he only did what was necessary. He will never, ever regret his choice, no matter what anyone else thinks. Because this is his path now. Meanwhile, heavy fortress gates groan open under a dark night sky, as a guard rushes to clear the way. Jane and her elite squad of elves march into the courtyard. She turns to a heavily wounded soldier, demanding one last time if his crazy report is actually true. The bleeding guy swears on his life there is no lie, begging her to believe him. He explains how one single man breached the zone and absolutely battered every soldier there. Then, with just his bare hands, he literally took Sir Karamov's head. The soldier says that was the last they ever saw of Karamov. Jane stares at the bodies, angrily asking why that guy's corpse is not here. She demands to know how anyone could believe a wild story like that without proof. The soldier stammers that he does not get it either, but he saw it with his own eyes. Another elf says the pursuit team is ready. Jane stalks off. So what is next? You and I definitely need to stick around for this. Alright, stick with me. We are diving into a totally insane survival manhwa. Jane stands before her army, ordering the ultimate manhunt for our guy, Johan Idas. She accuses him of betraying his bloodline and murdering Sir Karamov. Meanwhile, our boy is sprinting through the woods, literally carrying Philip on his shoulders. Jane screams for her troops to hunt him down, dead or alive. In the pitch-black forest, heavily armed soldiers completely surround him. Slice, an elf drops instantly. Johan carves a bloody path right through them. The commander yells that Johan cuts Danist steel like butter, warning them not to engage solo. Treat this like a literal dragon hunt. She locks down every single road, demanding they chase him until he cracks. Her men totally panic over Karamov's death. Jane's eyes are ice cold. She swears she is bringing that bastard's head to Her Majesty. Suddenly, a flashback hits, a bleeding Philip telling Johan to listen up. He begs him to hit the stables, steal a warhorse and run like hell. Survive no matter what it takes. Still lugging Philip around, Johan crashes into the stable, absolutely gassed. He totally thought he was dead. He checks his six, shocked that hiding Karamov's body didn't buy him more time. These elves moved way faster than expected. He figures he will keep holding Philip, using the heavy armor as a literal meat shield until he loses them. He forces himself up, ready to keep pushing. Opening the stable doors, he spots Jezen's absolute beast of a warhorse. He quietly thanks his brother. Stroking the mane, he whispers that this ride might actually save him. Time for a name. The horse just stares. He dubs it Philip. Suddenly, an elf screams that he spotted the flash of Danist steel, ordering his squad to sweep the area. Now pay attention, this escape is wild. A guard hears hooves and bam, Johan explodes from the tree line on horseback, totally shocking the troops. Clutching the dead body, he charges full speed. One soldier spots his face, screaming that Johan Idas is breaking through on a horse. He blasts right into the dark woods. The elf commander loses his mind, ordering the squad to shoot him down. Do not let him slip away, crossbows fire. Thwack arrows slam straight into Philip's armor. Johan vanishes into the moonlight. Dude rode all night long, finally shaking that massive pursuit team entirely. Deep in the black forest, he finally halts. Philip was a total creep, sure, but dumping him without a proper burial just feels wrong. Johan glances back, he spots Philip's shiny gear, noting how insanely expensive it looks. He snatches the sword from the body. Testing the grip, he realizes it is super light, solid Danist steel. Unsheathing the blade, he checks out the wild engravings. It is ancient imperial text that says, "I am the one who reclaims crests. Crest reclaimer." That name goes hard. He shudders, guessing it means stealing family crests. Super sketchy vibe. He pockets the epic sword but decides to bury the heavy armor. Total waste of good gear, but he swears he will grab it later. Right now, it is just dead weight. He grabs a shovel and starts digging. After burying the dude and his loot, He wonders if this covers his tracks. Then, a vision of Emperor's Knight Karamov hits him hard. Once word gets out, the whole empire and angry knights will be hunting him. Jane's promise of endless torture rings in his head. Honestly, his life sucked way before he killed her. House 8's burned to the ground, his wallet completely empty. Figuring out his next move, he tries to chill. Then, a low, terrifying growl, he whips around. A massive black wolf steps out. Johan stares death down. Our guy is totally running on fumes, cursing his terrible luck. In this exhausted state, zero chance. His arms are jelly holding that sword. The only play is reaching the horse. But wait, a guard nearby yells they found his ride. Troops secure the warhorse, knowing he is hiding nearby. Johan sees the wolves of Akaton. They caught up. An elf points right at him, hearing a branch snap. Crossbows aim straight into the shadows. He is totally trapped. Giant monster ahead, killer elves behind. You and I both thought he was dead meat, right? Well, watch this twist. The massive wolf completely jumps over him. It instantly ambushes the elven soldiers from behind, absolutely slaughtering them. A soldier screams in pure agony. Johan just watches, totally stunned. Why did it spare him? It is clearing a path. This is his window. Knowing hesitation means death, he gears up for a crazy sprint. Gritting his teeth, he just bolts. The kid runs like a maniac straight for his horse. He vaults into the saddle, whips the reins, and launches into top gear. Riding out, old childhood memories suddenly start flooding his brain. A priest teaching him to read, kicking it with his big bro. Johan pushes the horse faster. Flashes of his brutal training and the massacred villagers, leaving his homeland forever. He remembers his dying brother passing him the family helm. Now, he is leaving the burning ruins of 8's village in the dust. An elf's lifeless body drops. The giant black wolf stands tall over the bloody carnage, quietly watching our boy Johan fade into the horizon. Elsewhere, guards patrol a dirt path. Thick smoke billows miles away. Hiding in the bushes, Johan realizes his clean getaway is completely ruined. A massive checkpoint blocks the road. He slumps against Philip the horse, entirely drained. Zero food, zero sleep since this crazy chase started. For 3 brutal days, Akaton's military has hunted him like an animal. Johan does not even know how many times he narrowly survived those absolute gank squads. He is totally toast. His sword feels like a ton of bricks. Up ahead, guards lock down the exit. Zero options left. Staying low, he tracks the patrol movements. But then, out of nowhere, a heavily guarded merchant caravan rolls up the road. Lightbulb moment. He is gonna pose as a traitor and use their crew to sneak past the blockade completely unnoticed. Over at the wagons, someone flags down Sir Eldon's from the Katana Trading Company. Eldon's turns around, asking what the holdup is. A nervous merc points down the road as an armored rider appears. Khan shouts to prepare for battle. And that is where we leave it. Trust me, you need to see part 2. Let's jump into this crazy world. Gamson wonders why they are stressing over one single knight. Goran tells him to look closer. That dude is rocking full plate armor on a massive warhorse. Plus, he has a heavy helm and solid metal chest plate. Khan aggressively grabs Gamson's head, forcing him to check out the blade sitting at the knight's waist. That weapon's hilt. Total giveaway, it is pure Danny's steel. That thing could slice their armor like butter. Still, the rookie thinks they can win since it is 9 against 1. Annoyed, another guy shoves him aside, saying the kid's clueless babbling is messing with his head. Another mercenary literally smacks the rookie's head, telling him to shut up if he is clueless. Meanwhile, Eldon's orders Goran and Khan to prep everyone to strike if the guy flinches. He says he will scout the situation himself first, only attack on his direct signal. Both veterans completely understand. Eldon's hops off his wagon, slowly walking toward the armored knight. While he moves, Khan quietly tells his squad to knock the target clean off his horse if things go sideways. The merchant introduces himself as Eldon's from the Katana Company. He politely asks for the knight's name to keep things chill. Hidden beneath his helm, Johan is completely shocked. The dude is a literal catman. Eldon's notices his mercs tensing up, and Johan definitely feels the heavy distrust. Knowing he needs to lower this catman's guard, he introduces himself as Johan, totally blaming his sketchy, battered look on a recent bandit attack. He asks Eldon's to please tell his squad to stand down. The merchant apologizes, explaining that in his risky line of work, he always prepares for the worst. Johan nods, totally getting the merchant's paranoid vibe. He then asks to tag along with their crew, claiming the bandits stole his cash. In return for some basic grub and a camp spot, he offers his sword to help protect their whole caravan. Eldons thinks it over and finally agrees to the whole deal. He casually mentions they are heading to Marseille and suggests Johan mingle with the mercs. The young guy thanks him, even though he literally has zero clue where that city is. Walking back, Eldons whispers to his crew that Johan is just a stray wanderer, but they need to watch him like hawks. And if he acts up, he flat out orders them to kill him with zero hesitation. The mercs agree. Now, Johan's only big headache is sneaking past the upcoming checkpoint. The caravan hits the dirt road again. Up ahead at the checkpoint, a soldier spots them coming. The wolves of Akheton immediately shout for the wagons to halt for a quick inspection. Johan finally hits the roadblock, praying he slides by unnoticed. Eldon steps up, demanding to speak right to the boss. The guard actually recognizes the Katana Trading Company, knowing their main hub is over in Marseille. He greets the merchant, explaining they are just following strict orders to hunt a fugitive trader. Johan instantly realizes this entire trap was set up just for him. One guard stomps over, ordering the knight to rip off his helm. Johan panics and makes up a weak excuse about having a nasty skin condition. The soldiers just laugh at him, aggressively demanding to see his face. The squad leader squints, wondering what the knight is hiding. Now pay attention, the tension here is insane. The two lock eyes. Johan assumes the worst and grips his sword hilt, ready to fight. But right before it kicks off, a loud voice cuts through. Eldons absolutely snaps at the guards, asking how they dare disrespect his company. He demands the commander and threatens the guy, warning that one more delay means a direct complaint to the captain, and he makes sure to add he will file it personally at the Marseille branch. The guard backs down hard, ordering his squad to clear the road. The rest of the soldiers are visibly super annoyed by their boss caving. The leader walks up to Johan, muttering that he got crazy lucky. The caravan finally rolls through the blockade. Johan glances back over his shoulder one last time. The soldiers can only watch them vanish down the trail. By sundown, the mercenary crew circles the campfire to sort out their night watch shifts. Inside his tent, Eldons reviews a scroll. He then walks over to Johan, telling the new guy to just go sleep since he is off duty. The young guy nods thanks to a merc who tosses a sleeping bag in the dirt for him. Exhausted, Johan sits down, finally ready to chill. He crashes hard right next to the crackling fire. A creepy dude stares at the full moon through the branches. Another guy steps out of the dark brush, whispering orders for everyone to gear up. Their strategy: wrap around the hill and blitz the whole camp at once. Meanwhile, fast asleep, Sergeant Kim Johan dreams about his old military days. During some intense tactical training, he perfectly pulled off a layered defense against a massive enemy force. His crazy tactical brain made him an absolute legend among the troops. Battalion Commander Lieutenant Colonel Kim Yabak handed him a medal and 5 days leave. The young sergeant proudly salutes. He hypes himself up, thinking army life is his true calling. But the toxic old-school culture and brutal shifts wrecked that dream fast. The absolute worst part was the garbage paycheck. That is exactly why he decided to run. In his nightmare, he gets dragged back to base. Johan violently wakes up. He sits straight up, relieved it was only a bad dream. He takes a huge breath, trying to shake off the panic. That army nightmare completely wrecked his rest, and his body is screaming. He looks over, the moon is bright. But wait, you and I know this trope. Suddenly, a shower of arrows rains down. Johan braces for it. With absolute lightning speed, he snatches an arrow right out of the air. He instantly knows the soldiers tracked him down again. Super annoyed they found him, he jumps up, realizing he has to alert the crew immediately. He screams, warning everyone about the ambush. Eldons and the whole camp jolt awake in pure shock. Flashback to 5 minutes before the chaos. Khan was whining to Gamson, pissed that they were working their butts off while the new knight literally just snoozed. The veteran tells the young guy to keep quiet. He explains you cannot trust a random stranger on guard duty. He might slice their throats and take the loot. He warns the kid that acting so reckless will get him killed fast out here. Khan then turns around to finish his patrol route. Gamson scoffs, saying he only became a merc to live like a badass. He complains that if he knew Goran's crew were such cowards, he would have never signed up. Khan snaps back, demanding to know what he just said. The two stare each other down, and that is where we leave it. Crazy, right? All right, stick with me. We are diving right into an ambush. Arrows rain down like crazy while Khan tackles Gamson, shielding him. Once the deadly shower finally stops, Khan looks up. He yells at Gamson to grab the others, but the coward completely bails. Khan just watches him run away. Then Goran rushes over, totally relieved his buddy survived the barrage. He asks about the rookie, but quickly pivots to checking on Eldon's. The merchant is hiding under a wagon while they brace for impact. Johan steps up, barking orders to form a tight defensive ring. They have to stick together since the enemy could strike from anywhere. Goran completely shuts him down, asking if Johan thinks he is the boss now. The kid should just worry about surviving. Johan is seriously stunned. Then Goran hypes up the squad, yelling at everyone to grab shields. Johan tells Khan he has combat experience and asks for a shield. But Eldon's instantly denies him, saying they are short on gear. Johan turns around, realizing these mercenaries do not trust him. Now watch closely, because here is where it gets wild. A massive bandit army steps out. Johan notices they are not the elite wolves of a chitin, just regular thugs. Khan roars for a full advance, charging the woods. Johan stands there, wondering who is watching the wagon. Absolute chaos breaks out. The bandit boss yells to use their numbers. Goran fights for his life, screaming to hold the line. Backing down means death. Boom, he takes a punch. Khan screams for his captain. The bandit raises a dagger, ready to end Goran. Johan clenches his fist. In one smooth motion, his sword is out. The thieves are totally caught off guard by this sudden move. Goran watches helplessly from the dirt. Then flash, Johan literally slices a guy completely in half. Blood drips down the blade, and Johan watches the weapon's runes actually absorb it. A bandit screams that the magic sword is unbeatable. Johan announces himself as Johan of House Yates, demanding to know who dared attack him. Khan and Goran are completely mind-blown. He barely changed his real name from its. The thugs start panicking hard. Realizing they just jumped a high-ranking noble, Johan levels his blade right at the leader's face. Asking if they want to give up or die right here, he warns them to think real carefully. The boss just breathes heavy, totally frozen. Then clang, one guy drops his sword and everyone else follows. Throwing his hands up, the leader surrenders. Johan puts away his blade, telling Goran to tie them up and kill runners. Goran walks up to Eldon's, sweating about what happens next. He is terrified the noble wants revenge now. Since they treated him like dirt earlier, but Eldon's plays it cool, promising to fix it. Letting him join was a solid favor anyway. The merchant approaches Johan, thanking him for saving their entire caravan. Admitting he has absolutely no idea how to repay him, Johan just pats his shoulder, playing nice. The cat man is totally shocked Johan is not demanding cash. The noble walks away, but looks back and casually asks for a shield next time. Eldon's instantly promises him the very first one. Johan says he is going to question the captives and asks for backup. Goran suggests using formal noble titles to scare them straight. A mercenary shoves the bandit boss forward, forcing him right onto his knees. Johan steps up, demanding answers. The leader drops a bomb. They are actually soldiers from the destroyed House Brits. You and I totally did not see this coming. Months ago, the Emperor completely wiped out their home. They fought hard but got crushed when the royal executioners showed up. A mercenary confirms it was definitely Karamov himself. The leader bows deep, apologizing for the massive crime. He explains the imperial army branded them rebels and everyone else called them deserters. He knows stealing is wrong, but they were literally starving to death. Johan asks if someone hired them. The guy swears no, they only attacked because the wagon looked super rich. Eldon's absolutely loses it, screaming about merchant trust. Johan has him restrained and tells him to chill. He thinks back to the treason charges, remembering Karamov claiming it was necessary. It all clicks now. There was zero actual treason. The Emperor just used Karamov to execute his rivals and steal their power. Johan curses the Emperor, wishing him the worst death ever. He realizes these guys are victims, just like him. But they are still criminals now, leaving him torn. Khan asks if he should beat the truth out of them. Johan says no, they have enough intel. Out of nowhere, Gamson rushes in to violently smash a prisoner. The tied-up guy actually blocks the strike. Khan grabs Gamson's weapon before things get worse. Gamson flips out, demanding why. Khan says they cannot judge them. That is where we leave it wild, right? Let's dive right in. After his buddy ditches the crew, the young merc just totally shrugs it off. Meanwhile, the bandit boss begs Sir Johan for mercy, swearing he is done with crime. The other thugs are literally shaking in the dirt. Khan steps up, ready to execute every single one right now if ordered. Johan grips his sword, just weighing his options for a second. Surprisingly, he decides his guys should just disarm the bandits and kick them loose. The bandit boss is super grateful, but Gamson is like, why spare them? The young noble just turns to the thugs, telling them to listen up. He gets their struggle, but robbing caravans is a huge no. Johan drops a bomb, just like them, he only learned to fight to stay alive. Eldons is totally shocked hearing a noble talk street survival. One merc points at Goran, joking he is only here for the fat paycheck. The noble yells at the bandits to learn real skills and find a totally honest hustle. The bandit leader bows super low, swearing they will never forget this massive solid. Johan then tells his own crew it is time to hit the road. He just wants zero drama right now, but out in the distance, a super creepy shadow beast is totally spying on them from a hilltop. The shadow steps up, revealing a massive wolf with crazy glowing red eyes. Meanwhile, the squad decides to crash at a tiny spot called Rootspur before heading to Marcel. The village chief gets word that Sir Eldons from the Katana Trading Company just rolled into town. He heads straight to the courtyard to meet the merchant. Eldons hypes up the greeting, saying it has literally been months. The chief welcomes his buddy back and asks about the road. The merchant spills the tea about the bandit ambush. He points out how absolutely crazy things got since the emperor lost his mind. The chief quickly shuts him up, warning that imperial loyalists could cause massive trouble. But Eldons brags they survived thanks to this insanely brave noble riding with them. The chief laughs, mentioning some fake noble showed up weeks ago, but he literally beat the dude up and tossed him right out of town. The cat guy cracks up, saying his buddy still goes wild when he is mad. But Eldons promises this new guy is legit, brave, super honest, and the absolute best against those bandits. You saw that coming, right? He actually refuses the reward, completely stunning the chief. Now the leader realizes this knight is a massive asset. Right now, a solid knight is exactly what they need for security. So, he offers the whole squad a spot to crash and chill for a few weeks. Eldons tries to pass, but the chief insists they are tight enough for favors. Eldons jokes the guy is totally trying to steal his bodyguard, and they both laugh. The chief asks where this epic noble is hiding. Honestly, right now, he is starving and looking like a total beggar about to pass out. Goran walks up and flags down Sir Johan, who casually asks what is up. The merc hands over a fat cloth bag stuffed with coins looted from the bandits. He explains they flipped all the bandit gear for a seriously sweet payout. The young noble just looks at him and asks if he pocketed any of it. The merc totally denies it, saying Johan did all the heavy lifting. Johan just stares at the cash for a sec. Then, boom, he hands a massive bag back, telling Goran to split it. The merc rejects it, claiming it is too much and the loot belongs to him, but Johan insists. He flashes his hand, showing he already grabbed a few coins for himself. He reassures him it is chill, buying the crew's total loyalty is way better than fighting those wild Akitan wolves all by himself. Plus, he definitely did not solo that fight. Johan calls them brothers in arms now, hoping this fat payday builds some serious, unbreakable trust between them. He gives a quick goodbye and strolls off. Goran just watches him, totally blown away by a knight who actually respects and takes care of his squad. The merc spins around to hype up his boys. He loudly announces Sir Johan just dropped a massive blessing on them. Goran explains the boss is splitting the battle loot and tells everyone to line up. The rest of the mercs are literally standing there with their jaws dropped. They cannot believe he is giving up his own cash. But shock turns into pure hype as the whole crew starts screaming Johan's name, echoing through the whole village. Later at the inn, our guy is out cold, his trusty sword right by his side. But then, his door slowly starts to creep wide open. Watch closely now, this gets wild. The candle just dies out. Johan stays asleep, totally clueless that glowing red eyes are watching him from the pitch black. A masked dude leans over him, gripping a dagger. Flashback to the night before the attack. A guy hypes up the crowd, shouting that Johan is sharing the battle loot so everybody eats. Hearing that, the whole squad absolutely loses their minds cheering. Johan swaggers through the streets with people screaming his name. Sure, he secretly pocketed the top-tier gear, but he absolutely locked in his crew's loyalty. An older dude walks up, asking if he is Sir Johan. Caught off guard, Johan asks how he knows him, and the guy says everyone knows the noble backing Mr. Eldon's. The guy then offers to hook him up with the best room, flexing that the Katana Trading Company already covered his entire tab. That sweet freebie was Eldon's paying him back. Not turning down a free room, Johan just nods and tells him to lead the way. Later on, a soldier asks why exactly one guy got totally left out of the payout. Another explains Gamson literally hid during the fight, so he gets zero cash. Hearing the trash talk, Gamson peeks around the corner. Suddenly, something in the distance grabs his attention. Through a window, he spots Johan following that older dude. Seeing the boss out there triggers a seriously shady idea. Meanwhile, Johan hits the inn, just wanting to crash. Up in his room, our guy is kicking back in a hot bath. Sinking into the water, he finally feels the crazy stress leaving his body. A plush bed and hot water. He never thought basic stuff like this would hit this good. Before going rogue, he had zero clue how brutal living like a wandering beggar actually was. Growing up rich, he never even thought about the flex of a warm bed. But everything crashed and burned when that psycho emperor completely nuked his home turf to the ground. He was not the only one wrecked by that raid. But hey, he survived, making him way luckier than most of the victims. So what do we take from this? He is totally second-guessing Karamov's deal, because at this pace, the Imperial Army is definitely coming to execute him. Stick with me here, he needs a new escape plan. Suddenly, a genius idea hits him. Those mercenaries have zero chance against Eldon's. A rogue mercenary crew would never sweat a random merchant, but the massive company backing him. Totally different story. His mind flashes back to his childhood days at the village market. He remembers that top-tier trading companies share all their heavy funds and secret intel across borders. When they get huge, they can straight up manipulate nobles, politicians, or even entire armies. To dodge the Empire's brutal crackdowns, he absolutely must cozy up to one right now. Still, he decides to shove those massive brain plays aside for now. Man just wants to eat a good meal and pass out. Outside, the dead of night creeps in. Johan crashes hard, gripping his sword. Then, completely silent, his bedroom door slowly creeps open. A masked assassin sneaks up with a dagger drawn, reaching out to swipe Johan's blade. But bam! Johan snaps awake, grabs his wrist, and coldly asks if they ever quit. That insane reflex totally spooks the masked hitman. Sitting up like a boss, Johan demands answers, asking if he works for Karamov's shady crew. Freaking out, the assassin thrashes around, screaming for his life. With zero effort, Johan literally launches the dude right out the door. He hits the floor hard, and Johan snatches his leg. Dragging himself away, he begs for mercy. Too late, buddy. He just realized he messed with a total monster. Just 5 minutes before this absolute chaos, the innkeeper was totally knocked out asleep downstairs. Meanwhile, 2 sneaky guys were tiptoeing up the stairs. Gamson confidently tells Pra that leaving the dirty work to their boy is totally fine. Totally sold, he claims Valen, their strongest local fighter, is crazy fast and won't get caught wearing that mask. At the same time, Pell, the horse guy, follows the master plan and sneaks up on a massive warhorse. Climbing on, he whispers for it to chill out. Super curious, Pra asks if that sword is really worth it. Gamson shoots back, asking if he has ever seen a blade slice a dude completely in half. He literally watched that weapon cleave a soldier, so something that broken cannot be cheap. Now watch closely, this is where things get wild. Suddenly, the two peek down the hallway. Right in front of them is their battered buddy, screaming for help on the floor. Looming over him in the doorway, Johan's terrifying silhouette. Gamson goes dead silent, watching the nightmare unfold. Terrified, Pra shakes him, demanding to know what is happening. Gamson instantly tells him to run for his life. A gut-wrenching dread drops on them, and they instantly know they are totally screwed. Right then, Johan appears, casually asking who they are and what their deal is. Outside, Pell sees them rushing over and happily welcomes them back. Freaking out, Gamson screams at him to shut his mouth and get ready to bolt. He asks Pra about Valen. Shaking, Pra mutters that their boy is basically already dead. Gamson yells for everyone to mount up and ride, but Pra is stressing over Valen. Pell refuses to ditch him, but Gamson screams that the noble is coming. Boom, the inn's roof literally shatters. Straight through the rubble, Johan rockets toward them. Cut to the southern Holy Empire's edge, where bodies dangle from a creepy tree. A grunt is hammering a heavy wooden stake down. Dusting off his hands, he tells his buddy the grim work is done. Together, they slap a brutal warning sign on the fresh post, declaring that these absolute fools and their entire families were executed for touching a noble's gear. The terrifying Emperor Cardirian Bizzleferk personally signed off on this. One guard shakes his head, asking what insane treasure they stole to deserve a hanging. His buddy replies that he heard they just swiped a single chicken and 3 eggs from Baron Jevorzob's lands. Even he thinks that sounds completely crazy, totally shocked by the overkill. You and I both know that is insane, right? Meanwhile, over at a quiet local tavern, Eldon's is just chilling at his table, sipping some nice tea. Then, a dude runs up in a panic, dropping the bad news. He says Gamson from the Merc crew got busted trying to rob Sir Johann Yates. Eldon's literally leaps out of his chair in pure shock. Groaning, he collapses back down, totally stressed out. He really wanted to sweet-talk Johann into joining their little trip to Marseille. Not missing a beat, Eldon's orders them to lock Gamson up immediately and act completely clueless. The lackey nods and rushes off to obey. Secretly impressed by how icy and collected a Katana Company boss is during total disaster. Sitting alone, Eldon's takes a deep, steadying breath. He is totally confident he can finesse his way out of this mess like always. He won't die today, but he definitely needs a master plan to handle an overpowered noble like him. Meanwhile, the local village is wrapping up a tense meeting. Standing up, the grumpy chief calls it a night. Out of nowhere, a guy crashes the room screaming for the boss. He shouts that their boys got caught trying to rob the noble. Furious, the chief punches the table and screams that they are worthless punks. Someone asks how to fix this, making the old man even angrier. Barking orders, he tells them to grab all the shiny tributes they can find and toss in one of their village slaves too. He even commands them to publicly execute the thieves right in front of the nobleman. The parents instantly freak out, crying that they cannot let their own kids die. Boiling with pure rage, the chief grabs a stool, screams for silence, and shatters it. He roars at the crying parents, asking if their brains are broken or if they somehow forgot the emperor's absolutely unhinged new laws. Screaming, he warns they must strike before the noble does or they all die. The royal decree made it brutally clear: touch a noble's gear, and you get your tongue sliced off, or you and your entire family are sent straight to the gallows. So what do you and I take from this? In this wild empire, demanding 3 eggs instead of fair pay gets your whole bloodline wiped out. Let's dive right into this mess. To this chief, all nobles are the same. He turns to a mother, asking what this angry noble will do to their kids. Offend a noble, and payback is guaranteed. He figures the guy might just behead the whole village while giving some stuck-up speech about a knight's honor. One guy tries to argue. This is Count Jerpin's turf, right? No matter how big this noble's family is, they could just beg the local count for backup. But the chief shuts that down fast. Nobles only care about their twisted honor games, never about who actually lives or dies. Slamming the table, he screams for everyone to wake up. The parents are sobbing and the rest stay dead silent. The chief snaps, asking if they think he actually enjoys this. Looking completely wrecked, he hates sacrificing their kids. But he lays it out: if these youths die, the village survives. It is a brutal choice for the greater good. Later on, a huge crowd gathers under a massive tree. The 3 young guys are tied up, kneeling in the dirt, with a 4th dude slumped over next to them. Watching this all go down, Johann realizes things have completely spiraled. I mean, they were just dumb village kids trying to swipe his sword. They only did it because the weapon looked so flashy, making him realize he needs to keep that thing hidden. Honestly, he admits part of the blame is totally his for carrying that sword in public. He just wanted to scare them before letting them go. Sitting there, Johann waits amidst the crowd. Soon enough, the village chief walks up, asking if the Honorable Sir Johann is all right. Without missing a beat, Johann flat out says, nope, he is definitely not all right. He asks if shaking down guests with blades and looting bags is just standard Rootspec village hospitality. Hearing this absolute roast, the chief throws himself straight into the dirt, begging for forgiveness. Taking all the heat, he admits he totally failed at keeping these idiots in line. Johann dismisses the boys with a warning, but watch closely here. Suddenly, the chief whips out a dagger. Raising that shiny blade right over a kid's head, he loudly declares he'll redeem himself by chopping their heads off to restore Johann's precious honor. Immediately, Johann throws his hand out and orders him to freeze, making it crystal clear he doesn't want this. But the chief keeps pushing, insisting these honor-staining kids absolutely deserve death. Totally ignoring him, the chief raises the dagger again for the execution. The boy's mom just covers her face, sobbing apologies to her son. Bam, the blade gets stopped right before making impact. Ice cold, Johan asks if the guy is deaf. The chief and the whole village instantly lock eyes on Johan. Absolute dead silence. The crowd is glued to the scene. Johan stands up, asking if they've all lost their minds, killing kids over something so petty. Laying down the law, he says if these guys really need to pay for their crimes, just make them pay with straight cash. The whole crowd just stares at Johan, completely dumbfounded. Realizing his very normal idea sounded crazy to them, he clears his throat and says he'll repeat it. He asks how honor could ever be worth more than a human life, ordering them to untie the kids and scram. Stunned, the chief drops his dagger straight into the dirt. Completely blown away, the village leader falls to his knees, amazed by Sir Johan's incredibly honorable decision. Sobbing with relief, the parents rush to hug their boy, so glad he's safe. The village chief is still in shock, barely believing a noble this cool actually exists. It totally proves Eldons was telling the truth. As a massive thank you, the mercenaries bow deeply, promising to remember this kindness forever. Gamson jumps in to apologize too, admitting he had no idea the noble was this honorable, and that some idiot completely tricked him, while the rest of the kids get untied. A guy whispers they got crazy lucky, since any other knight would have slaughtered them. Right then, the mercenary boss walks up to Gamson, who begs to be untied. Bitterly, Gamson whines about joining such a cursed mercenary crew. Bam, the leader snatches his face. Terrified, the young guy stammers, asking what's going on. Ice cold, the boss tells him to relax his body, saying it'll make things way easier. Next second, a massive shadow rises right behind Gamson. Johan spots the sudden movement and whips around just as Gamson's lifeless body hits the dirt hard. Executed right in front of everyone. You and I both thought the bloodshed was over, right? Johan stands up, furious, demanding what the hell they're doing. The leader just casually explains, claiming that under the emperor's law, he simply executed a guy who got greedy for a noble's wealth. But Johan claps back instantly, saying they totally ignored his orders. He explicitly said he didn't want to see anyone else bleed. All around them, the mercenaries and Eldons just watch in dead silence. Looking right at Johan, the boss explains that even sketchy mercenaries have strict honor codes. Gamson's cowardly move basically trashed their reputation and put the whole squad in danger. So taking him out was just protecting those rules. The leader then holds out his bloody dagger, telling Johan if he feels his authority was disrespected, he should just punish him right now. In that moment, Johan realizes the guy actually has a point. These mercenaries have their own honor they'll defend with their lives. Respecting that, Johan smoothly sheathes his sword. The crowd is still watching, completely speechless. Johan gently pushes the leader's blade away. Honestly, he admits he didn't even think about the mercenaries' side and actually apologizes. This flex completely shocks both the mercenaries and Eldons. Nobody ever expects to see a high-class noble apologize. Johan then tells Khan to put the dagger away. The mercenary formally asks for forgiveness, and Johan quickly thanks the guy for being so understanding. A mercenary yells at Khan for challenging a noble, but Khan just shrugs it off. Watching from afar, Eldons looks at Johan in a completely new light. This noble hits different, super fair, incredibly brave, and zero arrogant attitude. It seriously makes Eldons wonder how a dude like this even exists in their messed up world. Right then, Eldons decides he's making Johan his ally at all costs. It's the perfect power move to boost his own reputation within the company. Later, the crew hits the road under a sunset sky. Riding along, Johan checks out a pocket watch he grabbed from the spoils. On horseback, he regrets picking the flashiest item since it's busted. Suddenly, someone sneaks up behind him. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are jumping right back in. A girl calls him Master Johan, joking about having another mouth to feed. Suddenly, a voice shouts from the gate. The village chief rolls up, handing over some thank you gifts from the locals. Johan spots a pocket watch right away, completely blown away they scored something so crazy expensive. On top of that, the chief tosses in a slave, claiming this kid is basically a walking GPS and super handy to have around. Johan has literally never seen someone in such miserable shape before. Leaving the kid like this, Basically, a straight-up death sentence. He politely thanks the chief for the offer, but insists they wash and feed the poor guy while they gear up to leave. The chief officially announces Godin has been accepted. But honestly, even as he takes the kid in, Johan feels super grossed out by the whole owning a person thing. Fast forward to nightfall. The mercenary crew is crushing barbecue around a campfire, with someone loudly telling Khan to lay off the booze. Godin walks over to Johan, who's busy polishing his sword, and calls him master. The kid awkwardly hands over some food, and Johan says thanks. He immediately tells Godin to drop the whole master thing and just use his actual name. The kid thanks him, super grateful, while Johan totally starts suspecting this boy is secretly a girl. Curious, he asks how a map genius ended up at the bottom of the barrel. Godin admits it's a pretty brutal story, then quietly asks if bad stuff ever happens to rich nobles too. Johan says he wants to hear the kid's backstory first. Godin nods. He kicks things off by explaining he used to be a traveling merchant. His job, moving and flipping weapons out east. But eventually, under a shady noble's orders, he got dragged into a massive gold smuggling ring. Johan points out that a crime like that is an instant death penalty. Dude is crazy lucky to be breathing. Godin sighs. He needed serious cash for his family. His little siblings were literally sick and starving to death. Because of that, he just kept stashing and moving the noble's dirty gold. That is, until the very same noble snitched on him to the cops. You and I both know how this goes. Dude got used and tossed out. Johan asks if he even tried fighting for a fair trial. Shaking his head, Godin says nope. Thanks to a royal decree from the emperor, he wasn't even allowed to open his mouth. Hearing that, Johan asks if the cash at least made it to his siblings. Godin admits that dodging the executioner meant blowing every single penny on bribing the guards. Godin starts apologizing, but Johan shuts that down fast. No need for sorries. This whole messed up world is enough to make anyone rage, without real power. Normal folks get treated like total garbage, completely crushed by corrupt nobles with zero way to fight back. Even the private guards from House Brits couldn't escape it. They survived by robbing others. Same for the people of Rootsbeck, pushed so hard they actually sacrificed their own kids just to stay alive. And then there's Godin, tossed into slavery the second he stopped being useful. Johan seriously questions if any of this is fair, but then he snaps back to reality. No time to play hero for the world right now. Because hello, the Emperor's army is literally hunting him down, and he could drop dead any second. He calls out to Godin, who jumps to attention. Johan looks him in the eye. They're comrades now. They're going to survive and actually live a good life together. The totally not a boy blushes hard. Out of nowhere, a merc runs up shouting about a monster nearby. Johan groans, standing up. Dude literally cannot catch a single break today. No hesitation. He asks for a location. The guy points, and the squad sprints off. Godin stays put, quietly repeating Johan's promise over and over in awe. Catching up to the crew, Johan asks if the beast is close. They whisper back that it's way too dark, but something huge is definitely lurking out there. Suddenly, Johan just casually strolls out from the bushes. The mercs totally panic, hissing at him to get down. But he just chills, saying it's all good. Then, he literally tells them to sheath their weapons. The mercs look at him like he's lost his mind. Johan says he's checking it out and walks straight into the pitch-black woods. Khan barks that fighting monsters takes hardcore skills, and walking in blind is a death wish. Sounding dead serious. He reminds everyone their main gig is protecting Eldons. Zero unnecessary risks allowed, but Johan just stops in his tracks, closes his eyes, and whispers that he feels something. Now here's where you and I need to pay attention. He steps toward the bushes, feeling a heavy, terrifying aura that would freeze a normal person's heart. Glowing eyes pierce through the dark. Johan instantly recognizes the beast. It's the Black Wolf of Bad Omens, the exact same big guy from before. Last time they crossed paths, it shredded the Akaton wolves instead of him. It had a million chances to end his life, but never even tried. That's how Johan knows for a fact this beast isn't here for blood. Totally relaxed, he calls the hidden monster out. Slowly, from the deep shadows, the gigantic black wolf steps into the light. Reaching out his hand, Johan asks if the big guy followed him, thanking it for the save earlier. Khan is sweating, asking if Johan actually tames monsters, while a merc mutters this is completely insane. The massive wolf creeps closer. It starts sniffing Johan's face, and then bam. The beast chomps right down on his entire head. A mercenary screams Johan's name in absolute terror. Right then, Eldon steps up, shoving the panicked merc aside like an absolute boss. With his head literally inside the wolf's jaws, Johan casually tells the squad to chill and not fear the big guy. Hugging the massive beast, he says this is the Guide of the Dawn. Eldon's totally geeks out, asking if he's serious. Confused, Johan repeats the name, Guide of the Dawn. Having no clue what that actually means, Eldon's jumps in, explaining there's an ancient folklore song from the Eastern Empire about this exact monster. The legend goes, back in the age of the Great War, a legendary warrior named the Wolf under a full moon. He called it the Guide of the Dawn. And upon hearing it, the beast actually bowed down. Its eyes lit up like crazy, and soldiers hyped it up as the wolf charged the front lines of the battlefield. When the war finally ended, the hero brought peace before dying. The Black Wolf howled in grief for 3 solid days and nights, then wandered off to find new heroes who needed help. Boom, that's the legend of the Guide. Johan scratches his head, asking if Eldon's is confused, since everyone else calls this thing a cursed omen of doom. Eldon's shakes his head. He explains the original lore comes from the Far East, and the story got totally twisted by the time it reached the southern lands. So what do you and I make of this? Eldon's quotes the text. The Guide punishes evil and bows only to true heroes. Alright, let's jump into something crazy. Eldon's reveals that phrase is from ancient Eastern texts, and Johan finally realizes what kind of absolute beast this creature truly is. Eldon's begs to pet the wolf just one time, and Johan actually says yes, but the second he tries leaning in, the wolf viciously growls right in his face. Yeah, maybe backing off is the smart play. Johan gives him a pat, instantly chilling him out. Eldon's is shocked. Is this beast only sweet to Johan? Suddenly, a light bulb goes off. He remembers an old piece of Eastern Empire folklore. It says that naming a divine beast actually makes it your loyal vassal. Just for a second, he seriously wonders if this guy is the legendary hero. He brushes it off, then immediately second-guesses himself. Eldon's asks Johan if he's named the Guide of the Dawn yet. Johan admits he literally hasn't had the time. Pushing hard, he begs Johan to drop a name right now. If the old legends are real, something totally mind-blowing is about to happen. Johan brainstorms, while Eldon's throws out katana as an option. Meanwhile, Valen gets flashbacks to burying that Cardway jerk. Pointing straight at the beast, Johan locks in his choice. The name is Karamov. Eldon's flips out, instantly recognizing the legendary name. The wolf's eyes glow with pure intensity, and a massive energy wave blasts over them. Karamov howls as raw power completely transforms his body. The Guide of the Dawn stands tall, locking eyes with his brand new master. Johan calmly gives him a pat, saying he's counting on him. Looking back, he admits it's epic, but asks Eldon's what the heck he's doing. Now watch closely. The mercenaries stare as Eldon's literally grovels on the floor before them, absolutely overwhelmed. Eldon's cries that it's exactly like the folklore, seeing a real myth unfold. Mind-blowing, he loudly declares his absolute respect for Johan right from day one. He praises Johan for trashing those bandits, showing insane mercy, and actually being chosen by a literal divine beast. Right in front of everyone, Eldon's crowns him the hero of hard times. Godin and the crew are totally shook. Whispers break out. Could this guy actually be the legendary hero? Looking incredibly awkward, Johan turns to Eldon's and quietly drops an apology. He admits he's no savior. He's just a totally normal wanderer from a nobody family, literally just trying not to die out here. Plus, he confesses he's actually on the run for beating Karamov. Johan says sorry for the letdown, but Eldon's refuses to be disappointed. Instead, he begs to introduce him to the Machin Trading Company as payback for his help. Catching that info, Johan remembers Marcel being mentioned and asks about it. Eldon's hypes it up as a massive free trade city, a spot the Emperor cannot reach. That little detail absolutely hooks Johan. He accepts the offer, playing the humble card about taking such kindness, while Eldon's gushes. Johan secretly plots. If the Emperor can't catch him, merchant life sounds pretty sweet. As Eldon's happily sings, Johan prays those crazy hero rumors die. Let's pause here. You and I both know what he's thinking. That hero title sounds incredible, and he genuinely wishes it were true. But reality check, past life or present, he's just a guy fighting to survive. Then, a dark memory flashes, a terrifying figure cursing him to pure suffering. Clenching his fists, Johan admits his previous life was absolute garbage too. But this time, completely different. He's making his own choices now. With his mindset, the squad finally heads toward the mega-rich merchant city, Marcel. Godin is stunned he's actually back here. Strolling through the bustling market, Johan suggests dropping some cash on gear. Out of nowhere, Karamov zooms ahead. Johan shouts, but a vendor swoops in, cooing over the cute puppy and offering a sweet snack. Watching this play out, Johan realizes everyone just sees a super adorable, completely harmless little dog. Flashback to yesterday in the woods, Johan pulls Karamov aside for a quick little chat. He warns that a giant beast would cause pure chaos, asking him to stay back. But suddenly, Karamov's body starts glowing and shifting. Johan's jaw drops as the wolf shrinks right down. He's totally stunned. Is this pocket-sized trick just another crazy divine beast perk? Godin instantly sprints over and snuggles the tiny Karamov, screaming about how cute he is. Seeing this, Johan figures at this size. Sneaking him in should be a breeze. Back to reality, a crowd surrounds the weird puppy, guessing it's some rare exotic pet. Super embarrassed, Godin apologizes for the dog's hype, but Johan whispers they need to hustle since they're still literally on the run. Minutes later, Godin steps up. He flexes his past as a gear merchant, promising to handle all their upgrades if Johan buys a massive bag. Johan pulls out 4 measly silver coins, doubting it's enough for a full haul. Smirking, Godin snatches just a single coin. He boasts he'll score everything on the list with that one piece. Johan tells him to chill. What can one coin actually do? Flash forward, both guys are geared to the teeth. Johan is absolutely stunned that a single coin pulled this massive haul off. Johan scored a sick tactical bag, and Godin got a massive supply pack, using his legendary merchant smooth-talking skills. Godin somehow flipped a totally trashed helmet for big money, grabbing a free mace too, after stocking up on vinegar. Oil and tools, they actually got change. Honestly, they somehow walked out richer than when they walked in. So what do you and I learn here? Johan just realized that buried gear he left behind is basically an absolute goldmine. Let's dive straight into this epic ride. Johan figures if he ever returns, he'll totally dig that stash up for some quick cash. Watching his buddy, he notices Godin looks super thrilled doing the heavy lifting, practically glowing, so he playfully asks if the guy was actually a merchant before all this madness. Sorting out his brand new backpack, our boy admits he honestly missed this lifestyle. Flashbacks hit him hard back when he was a slave, living every single day absolutely terrified of dying. But hanging with Johan, he finally feels like a real merchant again. Godin totally pours his heart out, saying even without being a slave, he'd still pick traveling by his side. Johan smiles and says that. Hearing that literally makes his day, and he'll be counting on him. Godin instantly fires back with a super hyped, "You got it, Johan." With that settled, they hit the streets of Marseille. After surviving absolute hell for so long, Johan finally gets a taste of some seriously well-deserved happiness. The garbage meat he used to chew felt exactly like old shoes, but Marcel's street food. Absolute heaven. Plus, no more awful, itchy dirt covering him. Now he can literally soak in a warm, relaxing bath whenever he feels like it. Out traveling. Sleeping on freezing, wet rocks was normal and totally wrecked his back. Here in the city, he snoozes under super cozy, soft blankets, loving it. Johan thinks this city life is completely flawless and totally wants to settle down here forever. But classic anime logic, fate, ruins his perfect little dream. The next morning, the plaza is absolutely packed. Strolling around, Johan notes how crazy peaceful everything feels. It's been way too long since he just relaxed and walked the streets without running. But wait, his gut screams that something is totally off. Spotting a massive crowd grouped up, he seriously wonders if another bandit gang is attacking. A local guy confirms criminals kidnapped Dave's daughter and completely jacked all their cargo. Johan just keeps munching his meat skewer, totally eavesdropping on them. People start complaining that with wild bandits running loose, nobody feels safe anymore. Hearing that, Godin leans in, whispering to Johan that the whole city's vibe is completely ruined because of these thugs. Suddenly, a crazy mercenary threatens a vendor, aggressively yelling about paying later. He furiously screams for a meat skewer because he hasn't eaten in 4 days. Turns out, this guy is a total leftover from the Akaton. Wolves Guild who got lost hunting Johan and literally stumbled into Marcel. He whips around to keep yelling, but just completely freezes in his tracks. Johan and the merc lock eyes in shock. The guy calls him a total bastard and furiously charges. Now pay close attention, because this is where everything hits the fan. Johan realizes the wolves tracked him here, and a massive fight means absolute disaster. The crazy merc leaps at him, swinging his sword and screaming. But boom, out of nowhere, a guy on horseback totally wrecks the attacker. The mercenary faceplints into the dirt, while the whole crowd watches. The cool rider shakes his head, joking that Marcel's terrible security is letting all sorts of weirdos in. He looks over, calling Johan a wanderer, and asks if he's injured at all. Johan politely says he's perfectly fine and thanks him for the save. The guy flashes a smile, tells him to stay out of trouble, and rides off down the street like a total boss. Suddenly, an absolute army of mercenaries completely swarms the plaza in perfect formation. Brattle, the legendary captain of the Oakwood crew, tells the terrified citizens to chill out. He casually brags that his 500 elite fighters will totally wipe out the bandits and make Marcel a safe zone again. Godin is starstruck seeing them up close, while Johan asks if they're actually famous. Turns out, the Oakwood squad is a top-tier mercenary guild in the entire empire. Hearing that, Godin figures the city absolutely hired this powerhouse group, specifically to crush the local bandit problem. Johan stays completely quiet, just watching the chaos. He's sweating bullets, realizing if Brattle hadn't stepped in, his secret identity was basically 1 second from being exposed. If that crazy guy outed him, he'd be hunted by the entire empire and kicked out of Marcel forever. The dark memory of his old promise totally haunts him. The thought that he would only know suffering hits hard. Taking a huge breath, he completely grounds himself, remembering he's still running. His only survival play: get backing from a massive trading guild, since even the literal emperor can't mess with their business. Luckily for him, Eldon's totally hyped him up, getting him a golden ticket into the Machen Trading Company. But he seriously wonders what happens if his identity leaks before he's safe. You and I both know what happens if his cover blows early, right? The company would toss him to the wolves. Without Katana's protection, it is an instant game over. With laser focus, Johan tightens his fists. He needs to lock down that Katana Trading Company meeting and get real protection from the Empire right now. Until he officially earns their trust, he has to keep his real identity completely hidden. Suddenly, a random girl calls out his name, totally startling him. The Beast Girl smiles and introduces herself as Ibelka, an exclusive VIP worker for the Katana Trading Company. She excitedly explains Eldon's told her all about his epic skills, and she totally wants to team up with his house. Ibelka then casually invites him straight to the Katana office if he's free. They finally hit the Marcel branch office. Waiting outside, Godin tries to pet cute little Karamov's paw. But the little furball instantly chomps his hand. Inside, Johan waits alone in a super fancy VIP room, praying this place is his one shot to completely flip his life around. A classy lady steps up from behind, checking if he's the famous Mr. Johan that Eldon's wouldn't stop bragging about. He turns around as she stands up, looking totally professional. She officially introduces herself as Yeon, the actual branch manager of this massive Katana trading office. Johan plays it cool, dropping his Yates House title, and she smiles back, saying it's a huge honor to finally meet face to face. Yeon invites him to chat over some fancy tea, and he totally agrees to chill. They serve him a piping hot Mediterranean import drink. She politely hopes the expensive drink is to his liking. Johan thanks her, instantly realizing it's actually coffee. He smartly asks if it's made from roasted fruit seeds, and Yeon completely praises his genius taste buds. Yeon gets right to business, saying she already knows exactly why he's visiting, making Johan literally spill his drink. Trust me, you're gonna want to see what happens next. Stick with me here. Our guy is totally sweating, thinking the emperor tracked him down. But noticing his panic, the manager quickly explains her real meaning. She tells him straight up, the real reason is the massive ambition burning inside his heart. He is completely lost. That is, until she reveals Eldon's told her everything, how he actually protected innocent people and showed total mercy to his enemies. Watching him step into bandit-infested Marseille, she completely saw his drive to save the city himself. Hearing this, our guy just nods, fully admitting that. She read his true intentions perfectly. The manager insists ambition isn't some evil trait, it is literally a virtue for the truly worthy. Plus, her company absolutely loves sponsoring ambitious people who actually deserve it. Hearing this, he realizes a major deal is right on the table. If he is down, she offers a direct intro to the governor of Marseille. He knows the governor is basically the mayor, meaning with this connection, he would score massive backing from both the company and the city. Realizing this epic opportunity, he knows he absolutely has to accept it. With that kind of muscle, even the emperor could never touch him. Thanking her, he asks what the Katana Trading Company sponsorship actually involves. She explains the VIP treatment, free access to all their restaurants, inns, and high-end entertainment. But raising one finger, she drops a heavy warning: there is one single condition. He must swear to fight under the company flag. She demands his absolute loyalty whenever his combat skills are needed. He assumes this means wiping out the local bandits, but she shuts that down. The Oakwood mercenaries already took that job. She has a totally different mission saved just for him. The room goes silent for a second before he asks what this secret task is. She explains that several angry merchant districts are starting to revolt, loudly accusing the company of a total market monopoly. So, she calmly proposes that he straight up assassinate these angry merchants, and get this, even their kids. Now watch closely, she looks him dead in the eye, asking if he accepts this insane condition. He stays completely quiet, weighing the brutal proposal as the sun slowly sets over the Katana Company branch. Later, he steps outside. Godin cheerfully greets him, asking how the meeting went. In response, he just stares blankly at the far horizon. Godin nervously calls his name. Suddenly, our guy excitedly yells that they are going to suck some honey. Totally confused, Godin just stares back at him. Repeating the phrase, suck some honey. Flashback to an hour earlier, they are still in the meeting room and he completely rejects her twisted proposal. He argues that in a massive city like Marseille, complaints are totally normal when one group controls distribution. He then fiercely questions if, instead of actually talking it out, she seriously expects him to butcher these people and their innocent kids. He firmly states he will never murder innocent people for business, completely refusing the job. Finally, he suggests they just pretend this shady agreement never even happened. The two just stare at each other in dead silence for a moment. Then, her cold expression suddenly softens. Bowing slightly, she reveals he actually passed, leaving our guy completely confused. You and I definitely didn't see that coming. She reveals it was just a twisted test for the sponsorship, prompting him to ask if the whole monopoly was totally fake. She clarifies the company never monopolized anything, and the merchants actually love them. She still wants the deal, but promises he doesn't have to hit the battlefield right away. Since the Oakwood mercenaries are already out smashing the bandits, she tells him to kick back, relax, and fully enjoy the sweet perks of their heavy sponsorship. Extending her hand, she formally invites him to join. Hyped beyond belief, he instantly accepts. They shake on it, locking in the epic deal. He smiles, genuinely hoping this new partnership brings massive success for both of them. Back outside, Godin asks what sucking honey even means. He laughs, explaining it is slang for blowing crazy amounts of the Katana Company's cash on pure luxury. Godin excitedly asks if the negotiations worked out. Flashing a grin, he confirms the epic sponsorship is officially his. Godin happily congratulates him, and he grins back. Internally, our guy is completely thrilled. Scoring major corporate backing on day one in Marseille means everything is finally going perfectly his way. Sure, the bandits are still a headache, but he figures the mercenaries will crush them fast, bringing peace back to the city in no time. His ultimate dream of a chill, happy life is finally in reach. Time to relax, right? But suddenly, as they walk, a blood-curdling scream completely shatters the street's calm. A huge crowd circles several bodies dumped right on the pavement. He stares in absolute shock at the public massacre, right as Godin yells his name. Goran runs up with a serious warning. Shocked, he demands to know what the hell is happening. In response, Goran says the bandits have lost it, butchering merchant families just to terrify the city. A blood-soaked body lies right there on the cold square. Seeing the horror, he realizes the bandit problem is far from over. A furious citizen screams that Marseille must take responsibility for this absolute failure. Another guy claims the emperor is secretly backing the bandits, but it is dismissed as absurd. The crowd instantly erupts into a massive argument over the royal throne. Angry shouts and wild accusations explode everywhere while he just stands there, watching the pure chaos unfold. Marseille's new piece is shattering right in front of him. Frowning, he seriously starts to wonder, what the hell are those elite mercenaries actually doing? Meanwhile, Ibelka bursts into the office, shouting she has disastrous news for manager Johan, already aware of the public massacre. She demands to know what the Oakwood mercenaries are actually doing. Ibelka nervously hesitates for a moment before answering, revealing they have completely lost all contact with the Oakwood. The manager freezes, demanding to know what that actually means. Shaking, Ibelka reveals their liaison officer's body was discovered near the forest yesterday, and it was an absolute bloodbath. She is completely floored. The Oakwood squad has the military power of an entire city. There is zero chance some raggedy street bandits could ever wipe them out. Slamming the table in pure panic, she demands Ibelka bring Swetalga. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Stick with me here. They find the Ifil River mage to check his prophecies. Did they really lose? The river just flows under the moonlight. Swetalga dips his hand in the water, totally getting the vibe. He tells Katana she is dead wrong. Hunting down those mercenaries will not change a single thing. Here is where it gets wild. The prophecy says Johan, the guy who iced the Emperor's hound and dipped, is hiding in Marseille's pocket. Trust me, Swetalga swears things will not go how that bastard imagined.